So in today's video, I'm going to reveal the 7 principles for teenagers and people in their early 20s to become millionaires. Now, I made my first $1 million at 18 years old, and no matter what you see on TikTok, I want you to know that that is not normal. It is not normal in any shape, form, or fashion, but it is because I followed these 7 principles. So what I'm going to reveal to you today not only helped me make my first $1 million at 18 years old, it has helped me to amass a net worth of tens of millions of dollars by the age of 23. So I'm speaking from experience here, but I do want to make it clear that no matter what anyone says, I will hold my hand up and say that a very large portion of why I'm in the position I am today is because of luck or the grace of God, in my opinion, and timing. So just factor that in. Now, real quick, before we get into today's video, I've had tons of people over the years ask me to do like Q&As on Instagram or even here on YouTube, where I answer questions to people's specific cases, you know, their particular question. The first principle you need to learn if you want to be a millionaire in your teens or your early 20s is that in order to be a king, you must first be a pawn. And this is really the issue with this generation. And I say this generation even though I am included in it, but I grew up with very traditional principles around respect. I come from a background that is a mix between Eastern European and Middle Eastern. So like growing up, you have no option. You learn respect and you learn the pecking order. And I learned from a young age that you respect your elders. And that's why still to this day, I still sit across the table from people that, I'm going to be very honest with you, are far less successful than I am, but I shut the fuck up and I listen. Because for me, in my culture, you listen to your elders. Now that doesn't mean you need to take everything that they say on board, but you at least listen. And because I grew up in this environment of learning respect, I learned that, hey, you can be a king one day, but in order to be a king, you first need to be a pawn. You first need to be able to earn your stripes. And by the way, I earned my stripes from a very young age. I started my first entrepreneurial ventures when I was 14. And I learned what it was like to work with clients and, quite frankly, for lack of a better word, be their little bitch boy. I learned what it was like to pay my dues no matter what. It's kind of like, listen, when you're young and you join a football team, you're going to be the one who's the ball boy. At the end of training, you're going to be the one who is expected to carry all of the equipment to and from. And you need to go through that to one day become the captain. You don't just come in, especially as someone who is young, and become the captain all of a sudden. And that is the issue with today's social media bullshit society. They look at things and they look at people and they go, okay, I'm going to jump from here to here, and I deserve that for some reason. And I even get this to this day. People say, hey, Iman, why do you recommend business models that you used to do? Why don't you recommend what you're doing right now? Do you realize how stupid that sounds? Do you realize why I may suggest business models I did when I first started my entrepreneurial ventures, or within 3 years into my entrepreneurial ventures, not now that I am coming up to my 10th year as an entrepreneur? Do you not realize why I would suggest businesses that I started as a pawn, as someone with no resources, no connection, no money, nothing? Do you realize why I suggest those businesses rather than the businesses I have now with millions of followers, subscribers, tens of millions of dollars? Like, I'm sure you can kind of see why I think this is better than this. But this is what I'm saying. The younger generation, they look at things and they're like, no, I want to jump straight to the finish line. You have to earn your fucking stripes. So just remember, to be a king, you must first learn to be a pawn. And there is nothing wrong with that, by the way. There is honor, there is nobility in starting from the bottom of the pecking order, being quiet, respecting the process, and understanding that you will eventually work your way up the totem pole. Now, the next principle for teenagers to become millionaires is dress to elevate. And here's what I mean by that. When you are young, people are gonna automatically discredit you. You don't wanna make it worse by the way that you dress. So here's the thing, you can have a 30-year-old that dresses in big labels, Gucci, Balenciaga, wears the funny shoes and all that stuff. And listen, I mean, I'm not against it. Sometimes when I'm feeling comfortable, I dress in streetwear, but if I'm going to an important meeting, I can guarantee you I'm not dressed like that. And my point is that you can get a 30-year-old that dresses like that looks like a 20-year-old, whereas you can get a 18 or 20-year-old that dresses very traditional, very classic, and you can get an 18 or 20-year-old that looks like they're 30. So the point is, don't spend crazy amounts of money to have all these labels and this and that. And I don't think that's a good idea ever, unless you really can afford it. My best recommendation is just go for clothes that have no branding, no label. And I'm not saying that you need to dress in 3-piece suits. Listen, even if you just go in a simple black t-shirt, simple trousers that aren't too baggy, and definitely no skinny jeans, and just some classic timeless shape shoes. Listen, you're not dressing incredibly well, but the point is you can kind of hold your own in any room. Sometimes less really is more. So first learn how to just dress classic and timeless, and then later down the line you can start incorporating some suits. You can start incorporating some double-breasted suits. Maybe before you go to the suits, just get some nice blazers, and you can pair the blazers with trousers. It doesn't need to be a full suit. You know, a lot of times I'm just very comfortable with a nice round neck t-shirt. Not like this. This is a lot more, you know, it's a Sunday today, very home comfortable shirt. So not something as casual as this, just a nice fitted white t-shirt or black t-shirt and smart blazer over the top, some trousers and some smart shoes. And you have a very classic timeless look that's not overly formal, and you're never going to be too overdressed in any situation. And then, as I said, later down the line, you can get into your double-breasted, you can get into your three pieces, whatever you feel comfortable in, really. The third principle for teenagers to become millionaires is have something external that humbles you. And here's what I mean by that. There's a lot of people who are young with a lot of ambition in their life, but the issue is there's nothing in their life that has humbled them. Things that will humble you: combat sports. Business will humble you, because no matter how good you are, when you get in the world of business, the market will tell you how good you are. I'll give you a perfect example. I remember when I was 17 years old, I had gotten up to, I think, 15 or 20 grand in my business at that point. I dropped out of school the month prior, and I hired my first employee, full-time employee at $50,000 a year, which, by the way, for a first employee was like, at 17, that was big for me. And I'll never forget it. This person even moved country to join my company, aka just me. And within 3 to 4 days, he quit, packed up his stuff, and went back to his country and was like, I do not enjoy this work. And I remember it was one of the very few times I've ever cried in my life. I remember talking to my mom and just crying and just being like, wow, I feel like a failure. Your business is taking off and you're hiring your first employee, and they leave because A, the work isn't enjoyable enough, or potentially, and this is something I had to face at the time, maybe I just really wasn't an inspiring leader. Maybe I wasn't the sort of leader where my team was like, I would follow you into war. And things are very different now that I have 150 employees. We get 40,000 people a year applying to work at one of my companies, because I was humbled when I was 17 that, hey, maybe you're not as good as you think you are. Maybe you think that you're this little child prodigy. Are you sure about that? Let me humble you. So whether it's business, whether it's combat sports, you need something external in your life to humble you and put you in your place. Because the thing is, especially if you earn a lot of success at a young age, you're gonna start to think you're hot shit. And if you don't have anything to humble you, you will end up becoming your worst enemy. Principle number 5 is keep your circle small, but your influence large. And here's what I mean by that. There is nothing wrong with many people knowing you or with you having many acquaintances, but you should have very few friends. And here's the thing, most people in this bullshit fake life don't know the difference between an acquaintance and a friend, because most people don't understand what true loyalty is. They are around people that they don't like. They're around people for clout or money and this and that. And that's why, by the way, it's so important to get yourself strong first. So this way, people later down the line can't throw money or women or clout at you and you're impressed by it. You need to make yourself strong. You need to make yourself a fortress. But back to the point, keep your circle tight, but your influence large. Congratulations. Can you keep it now? And not only can you keep it, can you multiply it? Because that's a lot of pressure. Listen, if you make your first $1 million when you're 18 or you're 20 or you're, even 23, that's great, but that's a lot of pressure. Every year after that, can you hold that same standard? So you need to understand that God, if he blesses you, if he gives you that million at a young age, he's gonna see if you can handle it. He's gonna see if you can humble yourself